Hello everyone, I hope that you can all see and hear me, although I can't see and hear you. So welcome and thank you for joining me on this Sunday morning for my webinar, which is all about self-care when we're grieving. And let me share my screen with you. So it's really important that we look after ourselves well when we're grieving. And I know from personal experience that can be quite a challenge. So what can we do to navigate grief with more ease and regain joy and positivity in our life? So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Sabine Horner. I'm a qualified functional nutritionist, which means that when I work with clients, I look at all their medical history to find the root causes of their imbalances that led them to have certain health issues. I would say, like, when two people have diarrhea, the root causes of their diarrhea can be very different. So, and I don't not only look at their medical history, but also at a lot of other factors like their daily routine, their diet, of course, their lifestyle, the medication, any interactions with food and supplements they're taking, and so on and so forth. So I usually collect a full picture before I make any recommendations. And as an Ayurvedic health coach, I also look at their individual body type. Ayurveda is the traditional ancient healing system of India, and I'm also qualified as that one, and I'm also a yoga therapist. So I use specific meditations and breathing exercises as well as part of my recommendations when I work with clients. Now, my personal background, why am I so interested in helping bereaved people cope better with grief? Because of my personal experience with grief. I lost my husband more than 5 years ago to leukemia. So I understand what grieving is and the impact it has on our body and our minds and all the challenges that we experience. And I've learned a lot of coping strategies, and I like to share them to help other people cope better with their grief. And also, I have the professional expertise to know what nutritional changes and changes to our lifestyle would benefit us most. And Ayurveda has a huge treasure trove of very simple things that we can do. And I'm going to share, hopefully, a lot of them today with you. Now, what does self-care mean? Many people say it's like putting your oxygen mask on first on a plane. Always look after yourself first before you look after other people. Now, self-care, as I understand it, is all the little steps we take on a daily basis that help us keep our body, mind, and spirit in balance and restore harmony. So looking after our own needs first is very important, to have the energy, mental stamina, and also to be emotionally balanced enough to look after other people. So just reflect on this and ask yourself, how often do you tend to put other people first? Just take a minute of self-reflection. How often do you put yourself first, and how often do you put other people first? Now, self-care is an act of self-love. And I know from personal experience that I had problems with loving myself after my husband died, and maybe you have problems with that as well. So that's another point of maybe exploration and reflection. Do you have problems with loving yourself, with looking after yourself, with boundaries, with negative self-limiting beliefs and thoughts stemming maybe from your childhood. All this can impact, how we look after ourselves. Now, self-care can be a lot of things. Yeah, it can be resting enough, it can be exercising and getting enough sleep, being kind to ourselves, being mindful of what's going on in our body, having patience with ourselves. But of course, nutrition plays a very important and key part in it, because we have to, after all, put food into our body 3 times a day. So that's where nutrition comes in, and we need to have a good relationship with food. But also we need to have fun and giving ourselves permission to laugh and have fun again after our bereavement. Now, why is self-care important? Healthcare is basically self-care. So we want to bring our body back into balance after a major loss and prevent health issues further down the line. And first and foremost, we want to address any so-called grief symptoms, like brain fog, difficulty focusing, difficulty swallowing, sleep problems, and so on and so forth. And these grief symptoms are basically first warning signs that the body is out of balance. And these grief symptoms need to be taken more seriously. What's behind our grief symptoms is, well, actually, grief triggers a massive stress response, and stress does a lot of things in our body. First and foremost, it impacts our digestive system. So all the blood is diverted away into our limbs, into our heart and liver to run away from, in ancient times, the saber-toothed tiger. And this stress response hasn't changed over the millennia. It's still there. And when our digestive system doesn't function well, we can't process the food we put into our body. It isn't broken down, and then we get nutrient deficiencies because of that. And also we get digestive issues from all the undigested food that goes through our body, and sometimes also enters our body, because the gut is basically outside of the body, and only food and digested food should actually enter the bloodstream and our body. So, and when we get nutrient deficiencies and digestive issues, that can eventually lead to chronic health issues if we don't intervene. And what's also very often forgotten is that the mind is not separate from the body, right? Our head is attached to our body. So what goes on in our mind has an impact on the gut, and what goes on in the gut has an impact on our mind and brain. And that's called the gut-brain axis. So never forget that. So stress is in the mind and has an impact on the gut. And then, all the imbalances in the gut can cause further, mental health issues. That's one major impact that stress has. And also grief and stress impact our blood sugar levels. So what and when we eat becomes very important, and re-establishing a daily meal routine as quickly as possible. So when we eat a lot of processed food, with a lot of, grieving people tend to eat ready-made meals, something that's quick, doesn't involve too much cooking. There's also people still eating white bread, which has very little or no fiber in it. So what these processed foods do, ready-made meals with very little fiber, is they make our blood sugar levels go up very quickly, but half an hour later, the blood sugar levels come tumbling down. And then that can cause more hunger. So we eat something again. So half an hour, we feel fine. And then our blood sugar levels come crashing down again. So you can see this blood sugar roller coaster having a huge impact on our hunger, appetite, mood swing, mood, energy levels, sugar cravings, and can ultimately also contribute to depression. So what we want to do in grief, we want to keep the blood sugar levels as stable as possible. So that's why a daily meal routine around 3 regular meals a day is very important. That and other things that I'm going to mention later on. And actually anxiety can also be triggered by this, and irritation and anger. So a lot of our emotions can be linked to our blood sugar levels. So poor digestion can cause a lot of cravings. And cravings are basically our body trying to communicate what it needs, right? So cravings always need to be addressed. We need to listen to them. So very important signals. What I haven't mentioned yet is in our gut, we also have trillions of microbes living there. And there's harmful ones and there's beneficial ones. And we always want to have the beneficial ones flourishing and thriving and multiplying to keep the more harmful ones at bay. And more harmful ones can be harmful bacteria, but also viruses, parasites, some harmful yeasts like candida, and also fungi. So stress, unfortunately, has an impact on the beneficial gut bacteria. So very important to know that stress is not good for our beneficial ones. And we've already heard that grief causes a lot of stress. So be mindful of this. So that can cause digestive issues, upsets, when the balance in the gut is disrupted. But we can also get, as I mentioned before, nutrient deficiencies from poor digestion that causes cravings. We are basically malnourished after a major loss because our digestive system is not working well. And when we are malnourished at any level, not just the physical, but also the mental and emotional level, we get cravings for sweet tasting food. So there's a very clear distinction between sweet cravings and cravings for sweet tasting food, because sweet taste in nature is nourishing, it's building, and it's comforting. So when we didn't have supermarkets in former times, people were eating sweet tasting food like meat, grains, sweet potatoes, root vegetables, but also honey, dates, that sort of thing. So sweet tasting is not just anything that, has a very distinct sweet taste, but it can also be meat and grains. And nowadays people, go for comfort food, but the comfort food nowadays is just sweet. Hasn't got any nutrients in it, or not very many, not much fiber, is not feeding our beneficial gut bacteria, therefore, so it's upsetting the balance even more. And when our beneficial gut bacteria are not there, or their balance is disrupted, then our serotonin levels and other neurotransmitters are also affected, because serotonin is produced by our beneficial gut bacteria. 90% of it is produced in the gut. So you can see already that depression can have a lot of different root causes that have to do with stress and emotional stress in particular. And then we can also get electrolyte imbalances, and that can cause cravings. Like a lack of magnesium is very often the case, because stress depletes magnesium. So all this tingling and brain fog and fatigue and other grief symptoms can also be very often tracked back to a lack of magnesium. So bear that in your mind. So now that we know that we need to be aware of the stress that grief causes, poor digestion because of it, which is just one of the many effects that stress has on our body when we're grieving, the cravings that can come from being deficient in nutrients and all the other imbalances that poor digestion creates, and then also the unstable blood sugar levels. We can see that all of this needs to be addressed, and that's why I created an e-guide with 3 very simple self-care practices. And the first one, so here's the 3 simple self-care tips that address all of these issues that I've mentioned before: the stress, poor digestion, cravings, and blood sugar levels. And the first tip is deep breathing. Why? Because deep breathing is part of each yoga and meditation class anyway. It helps to ground ourselves. You know, when we've just lost somebody, we are very ungrounded. Somebody has just pulled the rug from under our feet. Our whole world is turned upside down. So deep breathing into our belly can help us to find our feet again. And deep breathing is also one of the ways that we can calm our nervous system. And that's to help you understand the nervous system a little bit. I've included this image on the right hand side. That's the vagus nerve. That's the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have got 2 sides of the nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic one. The sympathetic one is also the one that causes the fight and flight response, and the parasympathetic one is the one that puts us in rest and digest mode. And that's where we want to be most of the time, but we aren't, because grief puts us into fight and flight mode most of the time. So deep breathing can help with putting ourselves in rest and digest mode. And when we are, as the term says, rest and digest mode, we can digest our food better and therefore have more energy again. Apart from moving and exercising, deep breathing is also one of the other way, the only way to get our lymph and toxins moving in the body and out of the body. So, and you can see that the power of our breath is hugely underestimated. So we can do a lot and achieve a lot with just deep breathing. We need to breathe anyway, so we can do it anywhere. That's an advantage of deep breathing, and it doesn't cost anything. It's a free gift from nature, and it doesn't even cost much time to just do this. Just check in regularly with your breathing, because our breathing can become very shallow after losing our loved one. I remember this heaviness, this, maybe you've seen this statue of this man that's falling over and really being dragged to the ground. So I felt like that, as if there was a huge rock attached to my chest, pulling me to the ground all of the time. And breathing deeply became very, very difficult. So, but we shouldn't breathe here anyway. We should breathe deep in our belly. So, and another thing that is very probably one of the powers of deep breathing is it's repetitive. So anything repetitive is also calming to our nerves. Humming, for example, and you can combine humming with the breath, and then you get the humming breath, which is very soothing. So if you put your fingers in your ears and you just close your eyes with the other fingers and you like hum, this can help you sleep better, for example. And so here are some more repetitive activities that you could try, not just deep breathing. I just wanted to mention them briefly because anything that's repetitive is also soothing. So it is ideal to take some deep breaths before and after a meal. As I've already mentioned, deep breathing helps with digesting our food better. So I don't know whether you regularly, how you breathing, what your breathing is like, whether it's very shallow in your chest or whether you've done deep breathing before. But I would like to just try together. If you would like to close your eyes and put your hands on your tummy. And then just observe where your breath is at this moment in time. Whether it's in your chest, in your belly, or anywhere else. Whether it's shallow or deep. And what happens on the inhale to your tummy and what happens on the exhale. And then take a deep breath in and breathe deep into your belly and relax the tummy muscles out and blow your tummy up like a big balloon. So on the inhale, our tummy should always go out. And on the exhale, we pull the tummy muscles towards the back of the spine. So on the exhale, the tummy should always become as flat as possible. And take another deep breath in into the tummy, relaxing the tummy muscles, making it possible to really blow up the tummy like a big balloon, fill it with air, and on the exhale, go back towards the spine. So if you do this, you can open your eyes again, so maybe 3 times before a meal and 3 times after a meal. That can up your digestive enzymes, which we need to process our food better, by 25%. And if you want to know more about how breathing can help us, I hope you can see this book. It's by Thich Nhat Hanh, a very famous Buddhist monk, How to Live When a Loved One Dies. That's a very, very powerful book. You just open it at any page and there's wisdom, so much wisdom in this book that can help you, cope with grief better. And then the second self-care tip is all to do with drinking. So when we lose a loved one, we tend to forget to drink. I was one of them, and I still struggle if I don't prepare a flask every morning and fill it with some chunks of ginger, fresh ginger, and some lemon juice. Yesterday I forgot to, I made a flask and I forgot to bring it with me to my desk, and I was just sitting here preparing another presentation, and the whole afternoon I wasn't drinking. So I'm still guilty as charged. It's a very important self-care tip. Drinking enough, as I mentioned before, we forget to drink, but we also get dehydrated, of course, when we cry a lot. We may also get digestive upsets like diarrhea that can dehydrate us further, and we may also eat too drying things, like popcorn is very drying. So watch out for signs of dryness in the body, like a dry tongue, a dry mouth, dry lips, dry patches on your feet, for example, and also constipation can be a sign of dryness, too much dryness in the body. So drink warm fluids mainly. That's my self-care tip, especially before a meal. Why? Because I mentioned before that The blood is drained away from the digestive system when we're stressed, but we need lots of blood to be able to digest our food well. So, and when we eat something or drink something cold, and especially ice cold, I've got a client who does that all the time, then we also have blood constriction in the stomach, and the blood is again diverted away and can't process our food properly. So, especially before meals, always make sure you drink something warm only. And stop drinking about half an hour before a meal, and try to avoid drinking during and half an hour after the meal, because we need a lot of stomach acid also to digest our food well. And when we drink something cold or we just drink something, we dilute the stomach acid. So we want to keep it nice and steady and going, so that it can, break down the food that we've just eaten. And if we eat anything cold, it's the stomach needs to cook it first before it can break it down. So that takes time, and that can cause digestive issues. I recommend to everybody to also have a warm morning drink with warm water, the juice of half a lemon, and some raw honey. I always say raw honey because adulterated honey has not got the same benefits. And adulterated honey is honey with sugar added, and you don't know usually whether the honey you buy in a supermarket has been adulterated. So I usually buy organic honey because they are not allowed to add sugar to the honey. And raw honey is usually honey from a beehive put straight into a jar. So you can also go to beekeeper and get your honey from there, and it will be raw honey. So why is this morning drink so beneficial? Because honey is rich in iron, and the lemon is vitamin C, and vitamin C helps with the absorption of iron. And we need a lot of iron for our thyroid, which can also be poorly functioning because of the stress and cause weight gain, depression, anxiety, fatigue, blood sugar imbalances, you name it. When our thyroid is not functioning well, nothing is functioning well. We can also get constipation and other hormonal imbalances. Reduce caffeinated drinks to 1 cup. I know how hard this is. I'm a coffee addict myself. We do get bitter cravings because our heart has been deeply affected by our loss. And when our heart is affected, we do get these bitter cravings, and when there's a lack of joy in our lives. So coffee can become like a ritual to cheer us up in the morning, to have something like a treat, looking forward to it. But just savor your cup of morning coffee, and maybe add a little bit of coconut oil to make the effect of the caffeine a little bit less powerful, and the spikes you get, because coffee and any caffeinated drinks that you drink too much, like black tea, can make you very jittery and even more anxious than you already are, due to your experience of, your whole world has, been turned upside down. Anybody would become anxious under these circumstances. So just be aware of the effect of coffee on you, and also avoid sugary drinks and drinks with artificial sugar sweeteners, because they upset the balance in the gut between the harmful and the beneficial bacteria and make the harmful ones thrive. Anything with sugar makes them thrive. And also avoid fizzy drinks, because when you've already got gas and bloating, which you may have after losing your loved one due to, the blood not being in the digestive system, then fizzy drinks just make gas and bloating worse. Then here's more the signs of dryness that I mentioned before, and you can also have other clues of whether you are getting dehydrated or not. It can affect your mood, because all the cells are crying out for some water. It's very important for our cells. It can cause fatigue, increase the tension. We are tense anyway, but when we are dehydrated, we can even get more tense. And anxiety is also not helped by dehydration. We can get cramps, headaches, dizziness. We can even, get unconscious if we get too dehydrated. We can get heart palpitations and a rapid heart rate, and we don't perform well. And our brain, of course, is not functioning well either under these circumstances. And my third tip is eat a rainbow. So add color to everything you cook or eat. So when we add a lot of different colored vegetables to our meals, we get a lot of fiber into our meals. It's a very easy way of increasing our fiber intake, and fiber can stabilize these blood sugar roller coasters and make our mood and energy and cravings more stable, and also our emotions. And it feeds the beneficial guys. So, and we want them on our side. And so some ideas of how you can eat a rainbow is like make a very colorful stir fry, or put some colored vegetables in an omelette, which is very easy to do. Or even hummus can be made more colorful by adding a beetroot or carrot or an avocado, for example. I just want to mention the benefits of a stir fry, because a stir fry really became my savior, because I was not eating many vegetables after my husband died. I was struggling with cooking, and when I remembered this stir fry recipe, because I had to add more vegetables into my diet. I was, my Ayurvedic practitioner said you're not eating enough vegetables. So I rediscovered the stir fry recipe that my husband and I had been cooking, and I've been, every time I don't know what to cook, it's one of my go-tos. And as you can see, it's got a lot of benefits. It's a very easy way to get more fiber and variety into our diet. And the more variety we have, the more of the beneficial guys we feed, because we don't know which fiber, which bacteria strain prefers. So eating a very wide variety of fibers feeds all of them. It's easy to combine with all the sources of protein, whether it's meat, beans, lentils, burgers, falafel, even, feta cheese can be put into it. The only source of protein you can't put in a stir fry is milk, because it's just fluid. It's very easy, it requires no cooking skills, and you also don't need any special, wok. You can make it on autopilot. That was another coping strategy I discovered, just starting every meal the same way. The ingredients help balance your emotions, mood, and energy. It's very tasty, and it's very adaptable. So you can adapt it for one person, two persons, a whole family, with any leftover foods and ingredients, and it looks and tastes different every time, so it doesn't become boring. And it's also very quick. You can make it in 12 minutes, and I timed it. So this stir fry is very balancing for our mood and emotions, because it has a lot of vegetables in it. So every well-balanced meal should have more than half of the meal should be vegetables. And then just add a little bit of protein. We don't need much protein, like 25 grams is enough. You don't need a huge steak. You only need like 4 tablespoons of meat is enough usually. Some oily fish would also be beneficial. And then a little bit of beneficial oil is also important. Every cell in our body needs to be nourished with healthy oils. So, and also our nerve cells. If we have a low-fat diet, that's not going to help us cope better with our grief. So beneficial oils are olive oil, sesame oil, coconut oil, ghee, if you know what that is. It's clarified butter, very beneficial. Avocado oil, flaxseed oil, hemp seed oil. Those oils are very, very good. But you can only cook with olive oil, ghee, and coconut oil, and sesame oil, and the others are not stable enough and are ruined by cooking with them. And then, of course, it's self-explanatory. Moving is so important. The word emotions has the word move in it, so emotions need to move. I always noticed that when I was sitting too long, that I was struggling much more when I then got up from my desk, and I was just like in bits. So keep moving regularly. When you sit in front of the television, get up regularly. Just move your hips, your legs a little bit above hip height, and try to go out every day, at least for 15 minutes, and especially in the morning. That can increase our serotonin and the release of serotonin and dopamine in the brain. So I've mentioned before, serotonin is made by our gut bacteria, but it's released in our brain by being activated by light. So sunlight in the morning hitting the eyes activates our serotonin and also our dopamine. And dopamine is very, very important for our motivation and our focus, and looking forward to the day, and serotonin for our mood. It's a happy hormone, right? And movement in itself does a lot of good things in our body, as you can see. And it just can be anything, it can be even gardening or climbing the stairs, hula hooping, yoga, dancing, walking is very beneficial. Other self-care ideas, dancing I've already mentioned, but also having a bath. Hot bath also helps with blood circulation. And don't forget socializing. We are social creatures. We have not been made to live on our own. Isolation and loneliness are not good for our health, and especially not for our immune system. So try to connect with others. Even if you can't go out, just phone people. I phoned at least three of my friends every evening. Just get through the evening and the first few months, and then it became less and less frequent. But also try to connect with grief support groups. Get walking with other people if you can. If it's offered, then just take up the offer. Grief cafes are very good to share your experience with other grievers. So really important for us to connect. And another very easy self-care tip is taking some good supplements, especially vitamin D is important. This time of year, we're not making any vitamin D through the skin. First of all, all the skin is covered with clothing. And vitamin D through the skin is only made on bare skin. And second, the angle of the sun is too low in the northern hemisphere. So we're not making any vitamin D until the end of April, more or less. So supplement with enough. If you don't know where to start with how many international units, there's a wide range of units that you can get, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Have your vitamin D levels checked by your GP. It's very important to know where your baseline is. And it should be vitamin D3, not vitamin D2, and best combined with K2 to take the risk away of, which is very minimal anyway, of calcium accumulation in your arteries. K2 tells the calcium to go into the bones. So there's no risk in taking high amounts of vitamin D3 with K2. And magnesium is also important to activate vitamin D. So if we are lacking magnesium because we're so stressed, and depleting our magnesium reserves and not eating enough magnesium-rich food, like almonds are really rich in magnesium, then we also get a problem there. And omega-3 is the one in the middle. It's very good for our brain health, for our immune system, for our mood as well. And omega-3 is in oily fish, in flax seeds, hemp seeds. So if you can have more sources of omega-3 in your diet, that would definitely benefit you in many respects as well. Yeah, so self-care can be really simple, like just sipping, from a flask all day, just doing more deep breathing into your belly whenever you remember, check in with your breath, and adding more color to your food in the first place, but also more color to your life in terms of plants, colorful clothing. Bring color and joy back into your life. So I would say pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So we have to go through that pain. Nobody can do it for us. We have to go through it in the best way we can, while looking after us as well. But we don't have to suffer through grief. And you don't have to see the whole staircase, but just take the first step to look after yourself well. Okay? So, and we're all a work in progress. As you heard, I forgot to drink enough yesterday, so don't beat yourself up over something like that. Just start afresh the next day, have your goal and do the best you can, and not everything at once. So these are just suggestions, and start wherever you feel is easiest for you. If you want more support, there's a lot of free resources that I'm sharing on my social media handles, on Instagram, on YouTube. You've got a lot of cooking videos, of how to cook a risotto, a stir fry, a curry, and vary it every day. A stew this time of year, very beneficial. Have a look there. On the Instagram handle, I usually share, my daily stuff, what I've just cooked, and to inspire and motivate yourself to keep and carry on cooking. I also have an adaptable shopping list that can make it easier for you to get the right things into, because we always need to stock up on nourishing food and have nourishing food available when we want to cook something nourishing. Like tin beans and lentils are some of my food in the pantry that I always make sure there's enough of them. I have a mindful eating journal that I can share with you to help you if you tend to eat too much because of your emotions. Looking for comfort in food. A sleep self-care diary because we tend to have sleeping problems. I have a monthly e-newsletter that you can subscribe to. I have a well-being community for bereaved partners you can join, where I share lots and lots more tips. Grief yoga classes, and you can also get in touch with me for first steps towards change session. And these are also other things, but they are not free. So like my yoga classes, there's a small fee. There's private cooking sessions that I can do with you, but also cooking in a group, and vitamin D testing to tell you where to start with supplementing. And sometime along the way, I would also like to offer some group support programs. So this is how you can connect with me. You can see that's at all ways. And I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you found this talk beneficial in one way or the other. I'm not sure whether you can ask questions, whether this is a platform where you can ask questions. Oh, there's something in the chat. Okay, Lizzie says, thank you, Sabine. This has been brilliant. Lots to take away, make some positive step forward. Yes. So just remember not to do everything at once. Don't overwhelm yourself, because that's not what we want. It's just ideas, like easy ways to start, and then take it from there, step by step by step. Rome wasn't built in a day, so and we need to build ourselves back up again. Grief does a lot to our body and mind. So just be aware of this massive impact, and you can't recover in one day or 1 month or even 1 year. It has taken me 5 years to reach this stage, and I'm still working on myself. So there's still a lot to do. But just be aware. Awareness is most of the time the first step towards change. Just being aware of what's going on, and reflecting on when you have problems with self-care is a good one if you struggle. And get help and support. Doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody. It can be Cruz, it can be a mental health coach, it can be a life coach. There's so much support out there nowadays. And I would also like to share my link to my e-guide if you want to have a look and download it. There's the link. And yeah, so if there's no other questions, then I'm going to probably stop the webinar now, unless there's any question in the chat. Nope. Okay. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. I can't remember let me have a quick look. I've already put together a list of topics I want to share. Oh yeah, how to get back into a regular routine as quickly as possible, and why this is important. Yeah, and I'm also going to discuss morning routines, helpful, how to get into a helpful morning routine, and what you could have for breakfast that would be very beneficial. So if you want to join me next time, that's going to be the topic. And in March, I'm going to go over the bedtime routine, because that's also very important. Good sleep is very helpful, but is so elusive when we are grieving. So, okay, so thank you once again, and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.